Our reading today comes from the Reverend Hannah Roberts Villeneuve. People sometimes ask, is pride a protest or a party? And the answer is, of course, yes. And why not? Why not rejoice as we resist, dance as we demand change, celebrate as we create community that delights in all of who we are? So bring all of that with you this morning. Bring your policy demands, bring your glitter, bring your Supreme Court broken heart, bring your rainbow socks. Bring the emptiness you feel for our siblings gone too soon. Bring your Gloria Estefan remix. Bring your tender hope for change. Bring your most garish eyeshadow. Bring your spirit, tattered and broken, by a world that seems insistent on choosing fear and hate. Gather up all of these things and bring them here, to a place where we don't have to shoulder these burdens or celebrate these joys alone. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. My name is Vanessa Hall. My pronouns are she and her, and I am going to be reading words that were written by Victoria Harris, who's unable to be here with us today. I got lucky. I attended a very liberal Lutheran church while growing up. They said, "The Lord is your shepherd and he knows you're gay." They were a Unitarian Universalist church and they didn't even know it. In fact, I've been so lucky all my life as a gay person. Now, younger people would use the term queer, which was quite the slur in my day. Even though I knew I was different as early as the second grade, I didn't find a participant, a girl up the street, until I was 15. And needless to say, I never went back. I realized the hardships most of the LGBTQ+ folks go through today, coming out to themselves, their family, their church, their school, etc. And it was hard in the 1960s, but I repeat, I got lucky. I had parents who allowed me to wear my baseball cap incessantly. I had a church that welcomed me and helped me realize I was a special human being. Women in this Lutheran church I attended wore slacks to church and held 50% of the leadership roles, and this was in the 1960s. No wonder I'm a Unitarian Universalist today. Not that I didn't have a hard bump once in a while, like when they asked me for my resignation from a Texas Baptist university. This was after giving me special recognition for my teaching performance. What was I thinking to be at a fundamental institution? When I finally finished at the University of North Texas and made my way to Nashville in 1983, I got lucky again, working for the state. It's very difficult to get rid of state employees, though they seem to like me anyway. Meharry Medical College, plenty of discrimination going on there. I was just another person, though being white made me more different than being gay. And then on to Vanderbilt 10 years later. But for whatever reason, I found plenty of support there. Very gay-friendly faculty, staff all around, and I was able to then be out and proud. As a side note, Vanderbilt offered same-sex partner benefits years before we got the same-sex marriage law passed. Now as a member at FUN, when I should be bemoaning my traumatic gay experience, I am happily giving the different side of the coin. My heart goes out to all LGBTQ+ and questioning souls out there. My message is, it ain't all bad. Please seek healing help and find your place in the sun.
Good morning, friends. This is an unusual place for me. Usually my office is over there, so I'm widening my perspective. My name is Holling Smith-Borne, and I use he, him pronouns. And one of my favorite musicians is Dolly Parton, not necessarily because of her music, but because of who she is as a person and the wisdom that she has acquired as an American singer, a storyteller, a songwriter, an actress, a philanthropist, and a businesswoman. She famously said, "If you want the rainbow, You got to put up with the rain. And find out who you are and do it on purpose. In Unitarian Universalism, we often speak of beloved community, not as an abstract idea, but a lived, breathing reality. We talk about the beloved community so much at First UU that I imagine those people that are joining us online for services have a drinking game that includes taking espresso shots every time the word beloved community is mentioned in the service. And I'm imagining after 20 shots, they're out and ready to change the world. But beloved community is what happens when people are seen, they're affirmed, and they're celebrated for who they are. It's what happens when dignity is not conditional and love is not earned, but freely offered. For much of my life, I didn't know that kind of community existed. Growing up in a rural part of Ohio, my two communities were church and school. Neither place was safe for me as a trans-masculine person who was identified by others as a girl. Church was where I was forced to wear girl clothes and perform a version of myself that didn't fit at all. School wasn't any safer. Teachers often divided us by girls and boys, and I didn't fit in any of those categories. I wanted to play with the boys, but the only time I could do that was at recess. I knew who I was, a boy, but the world around me didn't affirm that or even believe my experiences. When your truth is constantly questioned, dismissed, or corrected, it becomes really hard to trust your own voice. So I turned to music, hoping it might be a safe place for me. But even music is a gendered space, believe it or not. In college, concert attire was very rigid. Either you wore a tux or an evening gown. I wanted to wear a tux, felt really uncomfortable in an evening gown, and I was called out. Have you ever tried to play the piano, the pedals, with high heels on? It's weird. So when your birth family, your church family, those communities, and your educational institutions all tell you that something is wrong with you, that you are not real or valid, it's really hard to imagine joy, let alone community. And then in 1991, I found the Indianapolis Women's Chorus, or rather, they found me. There was a new lesbian chorus starting in Indianapolis, and they invited me to audition as their pianist. I got the position, and you may think, gosh, that's really odd that I would be part of a women's chorus, but that was really the first place I could be myself. It gave me that space and the support that I needed to find out who I was and then do it on purpose. What I found there was not a rigid definition of gender. I found a community that listened, learned, and amplified LGBTQ voices through music. There was gender diversity, curiosity, and care for each other. They were there when I received gender-affirming care and surgery. They showed up for me, and they supported me and cared for me. In addition to practicing music, we practiced what we wanted to see in the world. Gender was a beautiful spectrum. Concert attire was non-binary. Pronouns mattered. Rehearsal was a safe place. And in that space, my authenticity wasn't just tolerated, it was celebrated and welcomed. To me, that is how I define queer joy. Queer joy is not the absence of pain, it's the presence of affirmation. Queer joy is not the absence of pain, it's the presence of affirmation. It's that moment when you realize you don't have to explain yourself to be worthy, and it's that deep exhale of being known and being your authentic self. That kind of community is not a luxury for trans people, it's a necessity. It's how we survive the day, the week, the year, and the Trump years. You may know that now I play the piano for Nashville in Harmony. It's an LGBT chorus here in town that was founded here at First UUN. They also use music to build community and to create social change. That community and fun are my beloved communities. I see the way you all contribute to the fun community. You show up, you're at rallies, you're at protests, you're standing up for my rights and the rights of our trans youth. I see it in the way trans voices are centered here at our church and believed. I see it in the pride you take in creating a space where young people are affirmed instead of legislated against. And I'm confident that I will see you all at the Pride Parade in June, where you all show up and let Governor Bill Lee know that families come in lots of different configurations and that queer families are important in Tennessee and won't be excluded, dismissed, or legislated against. The truth is, living in Tennessee can be disheartening. We all want to believe that the social justice work that we've done for years and what we're doing now will make things better for the next generation. The hard reality is that a lot of times I feel like we're going backwards, and our trans youths are having a really, really awful, difficult time. Trans youth are being told by laws, policies, and by the state that who you are is wrong and that it must be controlled. In that context, our fun, beloved community becomes more than a congregation. It's a lifeline, a chosen family, a living embodiment of our UU principles, which are the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence. Music continues to be a part of how I make sense of the world. Music can tell stories when words alone aren't enough. Music can soften hearts, challenge assumptions, and remind us of our shared humanity. It helps people see the inherent worth in everyone, even trans people, especially trans people. I have a deep gratitude for my two communities, the community here at First UU and Nashville in Harmony. These spaces help me put up with the rain so that together we can reach the rainbow. Thank you for listening.
Good morning. My name is Richard Bird. My pronouns are he, him. The first people that I came out to were probably the hardest. They were two of my closest friends from college. We were about 25, and we were at our annual Easter trip to Florida. I was finally beginning to see a future for myself that I'd been unable to imagine. It wasn't based on other people's expectations of the life that I should live, but the one that embraced who I truly was. You see, when I was 13 and read a definition of the word homosexuality, I immediately knew that it was describing me. It shook my world. And I kept that secret to myself for almost another 13 years. So I was ready to begin the coming out journey, and these two friends at a beach vacation seemed like the best place to start. I was scared stiff. I was pretty sure they already knew, one was even gay himself, but the fact that I had hidden this part of me from them for the past 8 years felt like a lie, and I kind of had been lying. Lewis had even asked me in college if I was gay, and I said no, mainly because I wasn't ready to say yes to myself. And I did try dating a couple of women, but that was short-lived. So when I came clean and confessed to them that I was gay that warm spring evening, there were hugs and tears, mostly my tears. It was an amazing burden that was lifted. These friends had been very patient with me, and they were waiting until I was ready to come out to them. They were loving and supportive, and it felt like a new chapter in our friendship was beginning. I think I floated back to Tennessee. Not long after that trip, Gail introduced me to a gay couple that was our age and lived in her building. They too were very supportive as I tried to figure out how to continue my coming out journey. I began to make new friends that I could be completely open to, and I almost felt like I had joined a new fraternity that I didn't even know existed. The next hardest person to come out to was my best friend from high school, Bill. I was pretty sure he was gay too, but I decided to take the first coming out step. Bill did indeed confess that he was gay, and we were now like brothers in this new fraternity. There was Wednesday night bridge club at the World's End Bar and Restaurant. It's like, hey, Mom, sorry I can't make it. I've got bridge club tonight. Then there was the fledgling Lesbian and Gay Coalition for Justice that met once a month and did make quite an impact on the local political scene back in the mid-90s. And then there was this church fund. The first few times I attended, I spotted some men in the back row in the center of the sanctuary, and after a few visits, I went up to them and introduced myself, and not long after that, we had formed a monthly LGBTQ potluck once a month. I look forward to those Sunday evening meals together a lot. Soon they asked me to be the group's representative on what was then called the Social Concerns Committee. I had never walked into a room of straight people before as a representative from the gay community, but no one blinked an eye, and my involvement in the church only grew from there. Coming out is actually a lifelong event, unless you're someone like RuPaul or David Sedaris. It may not be apparent to most of you, but I am a rather reserved person. The risk of losing friends, disappointing loved ones, disengaging work colleagues, or even catching a momentary glimpse of disapproval from the HVAC technician who happens to see a picture of you and your partner in a frame in the living room was and continues to be something that I'd rather avoid. When someone makes a reference to my wife, do I correct them? When I'm asked about what we did over the weekend, do I let them know we means me and my husband? Will we get the side eye when we check into a hotel where we've reserved a king bed? I have to say I've been very fortunate though. Perhaps I've been unnecessarily concerned, but I've rarely encountered a situation that was terribly uncomfortable. Even when William and I spent time with his family in small-town Texas this past week. As some of you may know, Williams lost his father this past weekend. Yeah, the family pulled together a rather quick funeral service, and my presence was actually discouraged by one of his uncles. We went together anyway and stayed with one of his aunts and a different uncle, who were wonderful. But even that other uncle was very gracious once we got there, and I felt warmly welcomed. So much progress and acceptance has been made since I was that 13-year-old kid. Even in a complicated moment like today, I hold on to that progress. I've seen what acceptance can do. I've lived it. Visibility matters, community matters, and courage, quiet or loud, moves the world forward. I'm grateful for the people and places that have helped me grow into myself, and I hold on to the hope that the arc of acceptance continues to bend toward inclusion, even when the moment feels uncertain. May it be so. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.